Of conversation today, and it's all about education and career development. And of course, the question that we're asking you today is, why do we have so many graduates who are jobless despite attaining the required qualifications? Once again, what are some of the graduates jobless despite attaining the required qualifications? Let's take a look at some of what you had to say. So Exalt Design Emmanuel says, because the system has wasted them by making their minds locked only for employment and not to make the mind open for job creation and problem solving. All right. And then we have Cindy Ma Leroy says, corruption, nepotism, name them. Education nowadays is just a waste of time and resources. No jobs, no jobs. Every year we have graduates but no jobs to offer them. Unemployment has turned out to be a crisis in the country, right? And then we have Solomon Sanganyi, who says, most jobs in Kenya aren't about what you know, but whom you know. Most firms create positions with people in mind, and most interviews are just smart formalities. You got to know someone to have a real chance of getting hired, all right? And of course, Jasiri says, it's time the syllabus introduces the who you should know and who sent you units. Okay, all right. Very valid, of course, feedback over there. And of course, we'll be addressing some of these issues with the panel of the discussion. So without further ado, we have Lydia Ngwiri, who is a counselor in studio with us. Lydia, thank you very much for making time for us this morning. How are you doing?
I'm very well.
All right, karibu sana. And we also have Professor Peter Ngure, who's the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Academic Affairs, St. Paul's University. Good morning, Professor. Thank you very much for joining us. How are you?
I'm fine.
All right, karibu sana. And we also have Emmanuel Manyasa, who is Executive Director, Usawa Agenda. Good morning, Emmanuel. Thank you very much for coming by today. And of course, joining us on Zoom, we have Amos Kimasisi Kaburu, who is an education analyst. Can you hear me, Amos? Good morning.
Good morning, I can hear you very well.
All right. And of course, we also have Jane Mutisia, who is a Managing Director, Career Management Center, joining us via Zoom as well. Good morning, Jane.
Good morning.
All right. Thank you very much to all of you for coming by today. And of course, let me just start with some of the feedback that we have received. And Professor, I'll just begin with you. A lot of people are saying, listen, yes, we have gone to school. Yes, we have, done what we are supposed to do. But there are no jobs, Someone actually saying we should introduce who do you know or who sent you as a unit in schools. What do you have to say to that?
Thank you, Winnie, and thank you, viewers. I think the issue that the viewers are addressing has to do with more of corruption rather than the pertinent issues that have to do with the changing landscape in the marketplace.
Right.
I would want to quote a few statistics because the marketplace has really shifted.
Sure.
In a survey undertaken in 2017, it indicated that degree graduates who are employed in their first year of graduation had reduced from 79% in 2011 to 13% in 2017. And those who had graduated with their diplomas had reduced from 20% to 3%, and that only 49% of Kenyan graduates were fit for jobs. The landscape has shifted because there is now an increased appetite towards employing people with postgraduate qualifications, as indicated in this same survey, where by 2011, only 10% of master's holders got jobs, and by 2017, 79% got jobs. So one of the issues that we have to address here is how far have we gone with our studies? What changes are happening in the marketplace? But on the other hand, there is kind of a disconnect between the skills and competences that graduates of tertiary institutions are bringing to the marketplace. In a survey carried out in 2015 by the British Council, it indicated very clearly that disciplinary knowledge accounts for only 54% of what the marketplace is looking out for in this country. And then you have to really remember to build your critical thinking skills. This was put at 27%. And of course, language and communication is also very critical. Our graduates are not so much aligned to the demands in the marketplace because of various reasons that we'll probably interact with.
Yes, as we go on with the discussion. All right, and of course, Dr. Emmanuel, in terms of that statistics that, of course, Professor has given us, I mean, 79% all the way to 13, that is a very big shift. What does this say as far as our education system is concerned, especially, you know, the tertiary and university level? What does that say?
Thank you, Winnie. We have, first of all, let me say employment is a function of many things. Key among them being the performance of the economy.
All right.
Are there the opportunities, first of all, in the economy for people to be hired? So our economy has not been doing well for the last many years. If you can recall how many companies have closed shop between 2013 and now, you will just be amazed.
Okay.
And all those companies closing shop, those are employment opportunities being shut.
Okay.
So that is one problem. The second problem is that Kenya lacks a manpower policy. So when we are training these graduates, what are we training them for? That is not, there's no guidance.
Okay.
I recall when I went to university and joined with very many colleagues, we joined to study economics. Many of them actually left economics to study music because at that time there was very high demand for music teachers. And by the time we were graduating, the government had already stopped music as an examinable subject.
That's
so
true.
all these people are not going to get posted as music teachers, and most of them had studied double music and education.
Yeah.
So we lack a manpower policy, and that contributes a lot to the graduate unemployment that we see.
Okay.
But also, from where I sit now, I have had the advantage of teaching in the university for 11 years, and I now have had the advantage of working in civil society for another 6 years, and currently in a position where I interview people.
Okay.
There is also a wide gap between what the labor market wants and what is coming from our institutions of higher learning.
All right.
And I can tell you that a significant part of the current unemployment is also contributed by lack of the requisite skills.
Okay, so, that is required. All right. Okay. So, Lydia, let me bring you in very quickly, given, you know, what they're saying. But then again, reading the feedback, you can really feel the frustration, you know, that Kenyans have as far as, yes, we have gone to school, but there are no opportunities. You know, can we just address this frustration? What is it brought about?
Of course, when you have gone to school and with very high expectations, and remember, it's all very costly because you're also paying for school fees. Even if it is your mother who paid for school fees, it means that some resources were used. And then after that, you cannot get employment or you cannot do what you wanted to do. It is very frustrating. And as a result, we have now behavior issues.
Okay.
Because most of those people are going to drinking because they are frustrated. Of course, mental health comes in because they are going to depression. And that's why we are finding in, like you have talked about, companies closing down.
Sure.
I happen to get a job, but now I don't have a job and I have a family.
Massive job losses, yes.
Yes, I have a family. I have people who are depending on me. And of course, killings will also come in because of mental health issues, because of depression.
That's true.
So it is really taking a very heavy toll on the society. Not forgetting that, like he has said, what we are teaching and what the job market wants are two different things.
Okay.
So unless somebody is very creative and they have a critical mind so that they can think beyond or outside the box, they will not make it.
They'll not make it.
And that's a cause for frustration.
Okay. All right. So, Amos, let me bring you in this sense. Should we change then what we're teaching in schools? Or what should happen? Because clearly there is a problem and there's a very, very huge gap.
Thank you. I just want to pick up from where Emmanuel left. The reality is that unemployment is an outcome of many factors coalescing. And of course, the schooling, or rather the training component, is also playing a significant role towards this challenge. Partly maybe because it is too specific, yet when you look at the job market, it changes faster than sometimes the agility that the education system has. So I'm trying to look at my own transitions, and last year when I began teaching at the university and look at the experiences I'm having with some of my students, including rejoining, I think there is a serious problem. Sitting the other side also as an employer and look at what I have. I mean, I would say that I have vacancies, but I still can't just get the people. So I think there is a serious problem.
Okay.
And as Emmanuel, it's not just about what the market wants, but I think there is a problem somewhere. There's a very, very serious problem, and it really has got to start with the way we've defined and operationalized our manpower planning in this country. We've almost done.
What do you mean you can't? What do you mean you can't get people? I mean, clearly there is a lot of people who are jobless. I mean, remember, like we said earlier on, unemployment in the country is really on the high, and of course, we're still seeing, more people losing their jobs on a daily basis. So, what do you mean there are no people for you to hire?
I want to pick up from where Prof left and mention that it's critical to understand what does the employer want.
Okay.
And the employer, of course, will first of all start with looking for a certain competence. So every employment-looking person should have a specific competence, which is a technical skill.
Okay.
But that is not enough. You're also looking at the social skills, you're looking at the life skills necessary. Because it is one thing for you to get a job, it is something else for you to perform this job and also remain there. So when you look at some of this specificity, you look at the kind of graduates sometimes we're getting, they don't just seem to be ready, even in terms of the technical skills. You look at what they have to offer, and a few years ago, if you had asked me, I would have told you that our own selection, and my good friend Jane is on this panel, our selection is more or less rejection as opposed to selection. That if you actually look at a typical job advert, it is looking out to reject as opposed to select it. So you will see a lot of thresholds that lock out many people. But today, reflecting on it as an employer, I think I would have serious frustrations. And now it makes more sense even when it is said in the HR circles that you hire slowly, but you fire so fast. It is sometimes very difficult for you to get a particular combination of the skill set that you require, whether it is in terms of both the transferable and non-transferable skills. I can tell you, Winnie, it is not easy to get a good employee. It is not easy. That's a fact.
Okay. All right. I'll come back to you and ask you, so what exactly are you looking for, when you're looking to employ someone? What is it that they need to have? Because like you said, clearly there is a very big problem, because they're not ready when they come into the job market. So I'll come back to you for that. But Jane, why are you rejecting so many people as compared to hiring? What is it? What is going on?
I'm laughing at what Amos is saying because that's the reality on the ground. And what we have been suffering from is you put an advert, I'm a reporter, we put an advert out, you get 300 applications, and you go through rejecting, like Amos is saying, or selecting. And you get very good people in terms of academics and experience. And when they come for the interviews, nobody can pass the bill. And you're not looking for a five-legged goat, no. You're just looking for the normal things. But sometimes, in some professions, are more affected than others. Especially, let me talk about recruiting a nurse. Every time we have to recruit a nurse in this country, we just struggle for whatever reason. I think because also our schools are so much into training the technical things, and they forget we don't just hire you for your technical capacity. So we have people who can't express. We have people who have the wrong attitude. You're talking to someone, but you can actually tell they're not fitting. They can inject that patient, but they will not fit because a patient is not just looking at being injected. We have other small things, just something like people not aligning to their career. And I'll use my own example. I did biochemistry, but for the whole 4 years, I never stopped to ask myself, my fourth year is coming, what exactly am I looking for and how do I align?
Okay.
So you realize that by the time you're finishing fourth year, you have not aligned. You just went to school to achieve the certificate, but you did not think with the end in mind. We even now, some people finishing fourth year and they still have to be trained on basic Excel, basic MS Office things. So apart from your degree, apart from your diploma, apart from your academic theoretical qualifications, there are some things that you're going to be looking at. And as a job seeker, you have to go for that.
All right.
The other problem is when you come with a mindset, like I had seen someone writing here that they need to introduce the unit of who do you know.
Who do you know and who sent
you?
you?
If you already have that mindset, if you already have that mindset of who do you know? Trust me, it's almost impossible to prepare for an interview. It's almost impossible because you're coming thinking Jane already has someone. So you come and we have to milk, answers from you.
Okay.
And I hope we get a chance to speak. For me today, I would just like to address the job seeker actually.
Absolutely.
And let me hope as we continue, I'll be able to do that.
Absolutely. Yes, because again, clearly, based from the discussion that we've had so far, is like there's a very big problem. These people are not ready. Like Amos said, they go to school, come out with a degree or a diploma, but then again, they do not fit, the job market. And of course, the job market keeps changing, year by year. And of course, you also talked about an aspect of aligning. And I'll come back to you because you somewhat have like a personal story in terms of what they wanted, they as in your parents, what they wanted you to actually study versus what you really wanted. And is this a thing that we see with so many students? But before that, Professor, some of these skills, right, where should they be taught in schools, or is it something that someone has to learn, for example, on their own?
That's a great question. The way the university is structured in this part of the world is not really to produce employees, but to produce academics, to produce thinkers, to produce researchers.
Is that where the problem is?
That's part of the problem.
Part of the problem.
And yet our job market as currently constituted does not really so much invite people who are thinkers, innovators, etc. And I will give you an example. In this country, there are very few opportunities for engineers to innovate and produce new products.
That's true.
If you go to most industries, they do more of what a technician does. So if you're looking for a technician and you are addressing a first-class honors from a university, you're probably looking for an employee in the wrong place. This is a person who is supposed to transition and go for postgraduate and then come out to be a research leader probably 10 years down the line. So our market is kind of cut for TVET rather than for university graduates. But even so, within the university curriculum, there are many gaps, and where we've tried to address these gaps, we've done the wrong thing. For example, we realize that people have very low or poor entrepreneurial skills, and universities quickly crafted a course on entrepreneurship. But when you go to a class, students don't even come for that class because they don't see the value behind it, and the lecturer teaching it is not even trained on entrepreneurship. He or she runs no business, so has no moral authority to really teach this course. So the students end up scoring A's and B's, but they have really no idea about what entrepreneurship is supposed to be. I'm glad that the government has realized this need and has mandated and directed that universities moving forward should move up placement offices and constitute them to be career services forums. And when we do that and we actualize that, the gaps that we are addressing this morning, in my opinion, will be addressed more significantly. Students will have opportunity to be trained on how to interview. They will be updated on the specific skills required for the job market they're targeting. They will be educated on how to present themselves, how to dress up, how to manage their time. All these things are not anywhere in a biochemistry or a physics curriculum.
That's true, absolutely. Okay, but then again, there's usually that debate of this is what you're taught in school versus what extra mile can you go as, a potential employee, for example, in terms of just learning some of the skills to make sure that you, put yourself, on top of the table as far as, how competent you are. So again, so then Dr. Emmanuel, so then should we just do away with universities and focus on TVETs because Professor is saying at the end of the day we see more value, and our market is more TVET centered as compared to the universities.
I like what Prof just said. What is happening in our labor market is that first of all, we got it wrong when we massified university education.
That's true.
So that we started to produce 10 engineers for every one technician. And because of that, we have been forced to deploy engineers as technicians.
That's true.
And by deploying them as technicians, we get the wrong attitude from them because they are dissatisfied, they are underemployed in those positions, and they are dissatisfied very quickly. Secondly, is that because of that massification, some of the degrees in engineering are actually, the certificates are just backed by technician skills. So someone has a certificate that is much higher than the actual qualifications they have. Because we massified degree courses and we didn't have sufficient resources to make sure that we produce that competency at that level of numbers that we are producing. And that challenges the labor market in a second way, in the sense that you have someone with a huge ego because they have a degree, but actually their competency is technician. And so you as an employer want to reward them based on their competency, and their expectation is based on their certificate.
So what you're saying is it really doesn't.
So that mismatch arises. But then I think we need to understand and go back and start to ask ourselves, what is education for? Is it for employment? Because this education for employment is a colonial relic that we have hung on to. Education has value beyond employment.
Just employment, that's true.
If we looked at it in that perspective, then children will not go to school and abandon the courses in which they are strong and start to study things because they have been told these are the best in the labor market. I remember still teaching in the university, and a girl comes to me. She was studying sociology and economics. She's moving into third year. She wants to major. And she tells me, I want to major in economics. And I told her, give me your transcripts for first and second year. She's scoring D's and C's in economics. But she's scoring B's and S's in sociology. But she's insisting that she must major in economics because she has been told that is the course that is marketable. She ended up taking one more year in the university and ended up getting a second class lower because she majored in the course where she did not have the strength.
That's true.
And she insisted. So this story of let us train for the labor market is also a problem, and it's training the universities. It's actually trying to turn our universities into TVET institutions in a sense. Universities are not supposed to produce for the labor market. They're supposed to produce people who will reshape the labor market. And not those who will fit into the labor market. Because graduates are the ones who are supposed to come, think, innovate, create new job opportunities that never existed before. They are not supposed to come and fit into those that exist.
Into the job
Technical
market.
colleges are supposed to produce for the existing job opportunities.
Market.
I think we need to get that clear.
All right. You want to add on to the same, Lydia?
I think also where the issue is this particular student who is going to the university, our education system, primary and secondary, it's so much about going to the university. And that's what we long for. How many students are we going to take to the university? And every parent, the idea is my child going to the university. No wonder the mushrooming of universities.
Because we have them popping up every day.
Because there is demand for university education. Because we want to go to the university. But unfortunately, like he's saying, to do what at the university? Not everybody is cut for university. So some are for tertiary institutions, others have few for university. But we are pushing everybody. In the process, we are forgetting about teaching other skills. Like in secondary school, we are supposed to teach life skills. How many schools teach life skills? Because those life skills are the ones that are going to make Amos and Jane get the person that they want.
Need.
Because this person was able to deal with themselves before they got to university. Unfortunately, for anybody to be happy in their job and to do what they're supposed to be doing, they must identify themselves right in secondary school. By the time they are going to university, they know who they are, and they have a vocational identification. Unfortunately, it is not done because of different reasons. Maybe we can
absolutely. But then again, when we say separate someone like TVET who is supposed to go for TVET who's supposed to go for university, there's usually that discrimination. you know, and even in the job markets, you'd find that this person is very, very skilled. The person is very talented, but then again, maybe they did not get a chance to go to the university, again, because of so many other reasons, not because they're not fit, right, to go to university. So when we say some, you know, especially for TVETs, those ones are supposed to fit in the current job market, and then those ones who go to the university are supposed to come up and innovate and create, you know, market, I would say, and job opportunities. I mean, won't we be, you know, what is it called, like upscaling the when it comes to discrimination of this too?
I don't think that is discrimination.
Yeah.
We need to start to value our jobs equally.
True.
I lived out of this country for a little while. And I lived in a country where you don't walk into a barber shop. You book an appointment with the barber.
Yeah.
And the barber comes to the barber shop to shave a certain number of people who have booked appointment for that day and goes away. Okay. And he drives a Mercedes to come to his barber shop because you pay him enough to drive that Mercedes.
Yes.
You value his skill, you pay for it.
Absolutely.
In this country, we have ranked jobs that come with degrees as superior to jobs that come with other skills.
Absolutely, yeah.
So for that reason, everyone wants a degree. And that's why you have had the chaos in the police. We have that same chaos in our primary school sector, where you've had police officers go to university and study and come out with degrees. And they want to be promoted and earn more because they have a degree. And the Police Service Commission is asking, okay, what is the value addition to policing of your degree?
Yeah.
That makes you want us to pay you more.
Okay.
So we need to reward jobs in their merit and not based on the academic paper that one holds.
Yeah, I like that you've made that clear, because again, I think it's an aspect of just changing our mindset, I would say, you know, as a people, as a society in general, because like Lydia says, sometimes we push people into just going to the universities because I want to go to the university because, you know, everybody wants to go to the university. All right. So Amos, again, you talked about an aspect of these people are not ready. Okay, the things that they are taught in the universities, it's not, I would say, good enough when it comes to the current job market. So aside from qualifications in terms of the papers that they might present to you, what else are you looking at?
Thank you so much. If I reflect on my own experiences as an employer, one of the conscious decisions that I personally made as an employer is to give opportunities to young people.
Okay.
Young people without experiences at all. Because sometimes also the bigger problem could also be with us as employers, and particularly those of us who masquerade as entrepreneurs. And mark my words, those of us who masquerade as entrepreneurs.
All right.
We have got two fundamental challenges with the so-called entrepreneurs. One, it is how to do an enterprise development. So you just look at what you've put in terms of financial resources, and you're looking at when are you likely to recoup your investment. And so we spend very little time as entrepreneurs to try and build an enterprise. So some of us will be going for what is cheap labor, and that is the reason why, as Emmanuel mentioned, it's very difficult for most of us as employers to value the skills that we have. So you want to go for most of the employers will prefer even going for, they'll tell you that a diploma will do this better job than a degree holder. But what they are basically masking is their intention not to pay well. Because even when they have got these diploma holders who are performing the job very well, they still don't pay them what is commensurate.
They're supposed to,
what they are doing. First thing. Number two, I want to go to what PLO mentioned, that we have got people with ideas but with no space, and people with the spaces, no ideas. And it now goes back to, because the failure by government to provide a manpower policy means that if you've got resources in this country, you invest in areas that are not fundamental. Today, as we speak, what are the challenges facing this country? We have a serious food shortage. And I can assure you, Winnie, if we don't do something so significant in the next 1 or 2 weeks, this country will have a serious food crisis. I now have a lot of interest in hospitality. And I'm looking at what we're battling with right now. I'm based in Western Kenya, but we just don't have potatoes for us to prepare fries. We don't have. And yet we have huge tracts of land. There are many rivers around where I am. And yet we can't get onions, we can't get tomatoes. So where is the problem? If government cannot be very deliberate to support enterprise development, so that farmer who is interested in investing in such areas, and this young man who has done general agriculture, like one whom I attended his graduation yesterday, and he seems to have lots of opportunities, according to him. But it's because most of the people giving him these opportunities are not paying him what is commensurate. And because he doesn't have sufficient financial literacy, even if he walks around and somebody offers him 1,000 shillings after giving 2 hours of consultation, he feels that he's doing very well. So we have to go back to understanding the value of the skills that we have. And enterprise development should be very, very critical. Because if I give the last example, last week I sat in a session facilitated by a senior executive in this country who was addressing a university congregation that was having a career week. And I can tell you, Winnie, that 90% of the people could not comprehend what he was saying. Because entrepreneurship is not as simple as we put it. That yes, you have money, you start selling potatoes, or you start selling eggs by the road. It is not that. How do you do fundamental investments? So it's a difficult conversation that it requires, and that's why I had a lot of hope when government set up a whole state department of enterprise development. But unfortunately, it just goes up to the end by the time you mention enterprise development. If you look at what it takes for us to build enterprises, I have a strong belief that even if our economy is not doing well, this country has enough capacity to give jobs to our young people. Why should I say this? The people who tell young people to go out there and create jobs have spent all their lives being employed. They have no idea of how to run a kiosk.
All right, so you think maybe we should reduce the retirement age, so that we have, you know, these people occupy some of these spaces. Okay, all right. Jane, very quickly on to you. You talked about an aspect of alignment, which I think is very, very important, right? But then again, at what point, I mean, at what point do we start, you know, having these conversations about alignments? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And what exactly is it you feel that you can do better and thrive, you know, even after probably graduation, or even you maybe not, you know, got an opportunity to go to a university or a TVET institution?
I think for me, it's a constant conversation that one should have, maybe from even high school, what courses, because also I realize that there are people who get to understand even how the intake is done by universities when they're already choosing.
That's true.
Someone realizes they want to do computer science, but they don't have physics. Someone realizes they want to do medicine, but they don't have biology or even nursing. So it's a constant conversation of us aligning with the universities and the market. And for those already in the university, you have to keep asking yourself what I said earlier. After my 4 years, will I get a job? And I'll give an example of those of us who are doing like sometimes general courses, which are a good foundation. That's what I did. Something like sociology. On its own, are you going to have 5 jobs that you can apply for, or are you going to join the unemployment bandwagon? And for you to be able to apply for a job and you're doing sociology, which is a good degree again, what do you do? Because on its own, it will not be enough. If you do economics on its own again, in this country, it may not be enough to get you a job after your 4th year. So those are conversations that people need to be told, especially from high school, in university, all the way as we finish. Even as you choose, and this is not just about aligning with your passion, because your passion alone will not get you a job. So it's about the passion, the market, and the needs that we have. For instance, how many of our graduates are going to where the world is going? Technology and tech and stuff to do with that. How many graduates are we churning in terms of the future of work? Compared to things that would have made sense maybe a few years back. So that is the alignment that I would like everybody to start looking at.
To understand.
As you do.
Right. There's a lot of conversation
and then
about...
The other thing
all right, very quickly.
I would like it to just add on alignment, the fact that sometimes people focus on internship and look at it like they are giving work to the employer. During your internship is where you really align. Your attachment is where you really align. When you go for internship, it's like you experience what happens in the work. And you have a chance to get a mentor who is already employed that you can even ask for me to get a job easily, for me to thrive in this organization, in this particular sector, what must I do when I'm in college? And we have seen people who do multiple things in college, your degree, and other professional courses, getting jobs faster than those who just have a plain degree that cannot say this is my profession.
Okay, all right. And also in this day and age where, of course, there's internet, right? And there's usually this debate where, do I really need to go to school where I can get, to learn some of those things on the internet? And some people who tell you they're self-made, right? And we have a lot of them who are really, really doing so well. So there's usually that debate, right? But before we talk about that and of course address the same, let's take a look at some of the feedback before we go on a break. And the question that we asked you is, why do we have so many graduates who are jobless? And this is despite attaining the required qualifications. So let's get to hear what you had to say. So Kenyan politics says the job market is flooded. It is important that we start figuring out how to survive without employment, for example, businesses, etc. All right. And then Kosimbe Arab Sang says, because connections are needed instead of qualifications, you need money to get the salary you want. Okay. And then Johnny Al-Qaddafi says, demanding higher pay even before practicing the skills in the field. Okay. And then Kiru Owairimu says, it is because the Kenyan economy cannot produce enough jobs. The few available slots are given to retired people. So sad. Okay. And then Samuel Mwangi says, job hunting is a skill. A certificate is like gold. If you keep it in the house, its value won't help you. But if you take it to the market, you will earn from it. Most graduates don't know how to market their skills. If you are a good carpenter and no one knows about it, what value is your skills? Marketing is more important, or is more than just applying for jobs. All right, interesting perspective over there. And then Edwina Mudome Midikira says, corruption is not a cause or solution to the high unemployment rate. The jobs are scarce. I think the government should encourage farming and the rest of the unused skills to be sold internationally. All right. And then Kim, is it CBS or CBS, says, most graduates want a 5-figure salary. Even without experience, you have nothing to offer. They must begin down and scale up the ladder. It's not always about corruption. Opportunities are many out there. Okay, varied opinions. And then Gideon Munene says 99% of job interviews are done for show so that the company is seen as if it does the right thing. They waste people's time while the preferred candidate gets a direct nomination after being endorsed by quote unquote Godfather. Okay, and then Patrick Monayo says, one, every job nowadays needs at least 2 to 10 years experience, and yet you are from school. So how did you get the experience without being offered the job? And then 2, if you don't have a relative, friend, or money, that is corruption, you will not get any job. All right, and then let's take a look at one more. Mohammed Farah says, graduates have qualifications and not skills. The two are completely different. One leads to unemployment, and while the other leads to self-employed jobs. All right, very interesting perspectives over there as far as the question of the day. Of course, we'll be sampling more after this break, but stay with us. We're coming back in a very few minutes. Stay with us. This is Your World.
Are you a HELB beneficiary with an outstanding loan? From the 1st of March to the 30th of April 2022, we are offering you a 100% COVID-19 penalty waiver. Kamilisha malipo yako ya HELB leo.
All our dreams can come true, and HELB is the best place to empower our dreams. Kamilisha malipo ya HELB.
Take advantage of the 100% penalty waiver and clear your HELB loan today. Terms and conditions apply. Higher Education Loans Board, empowering dreams.
They recognize that there is no wall that you can build that can keep the enemy away from you if God doesn't keep you safe. And that's a big lesson for us.
Brookhurst International School welcomes parents to enroll their children for April intake. Class 8 graduates can now enroll in Year 9. We are excellent in education, talent, and sports development. Enroll now in our main campus in Kiserian and in our campus in Lavington, Mudhangari Road.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're still with us. And if you are just joining us now, our conversation today is on education and career development. And of course, the question that we're asking you is, why is it that we have so many graduates who are still jobless despite attaining the required qualifications? So keep tweeting at NTV Kenya at Lubembe_Winnie. Remember to use the hashtag YourWorld. But if you want to call in, maybe ask a question, because we have a very able panel. So if you have any question, then feel free to do so. The numbers will be down on your screen. If you have a comment to share as well, feel free to do so. And let's have a conversation, you know, and at the end of the day, just get some solutions to some of the things that are affecting us today. Now, can we just go back to, you know, the early, I would say, primary school and secondary school as well. Now we're noticing a bit of a change in terms of the curriculum, right? And we're also turning away from the 844. Now we're embracing the 2663, right? So this changes, you know. Do you see it as a way that maybe it may be, just maybe, you know, will improve, you know, a person's chances of, for example, advancing when it comes to their career? Professor, do you want to take that? Thank you, Winnie. Yeah.
The Odhiambo Task Force report of 2012 indicated very clearly that there were significant gaps in our education system, and the fact that the education system was not delivering at the level that it was supposed to be, and also in tandem with the Constitution 2010, which we had promulgated 2 years before that. And KICD, would wish to thank them, did a great job by really interrogating that report and asking difficult questions in terms of where did we get it wrong? What are we producing? We have been running an education system where exams are overrated. And the most brilliant, and sometimes the thieves of the exams, are the ones that are rewarded. So if you look at the basics of CBC, moving away from what they call KBC, the knowledge-based education, to the competence-based education, it's really a plus to see that right from the formative years, we now have a well-thought-out curriculum where the student is put at the center of education rather than exams and other peripheral issues. So there is room for people to run with what is within their interest. There is room for people to really make their hands dirty by doing things that they could not do. And we are watching very closely how this will pan out. However, my worry is that our universities have not even started thinking about it. And I wonder what will happen in 2029 when the CBC graduates will be at our gates, wanting now to come to a university for a CBC-based education.
All right. And Emmanuel, in terms of then, there's a lot of inequality, especially when it comes to setting the exam. Because, for example, just recently we ran a story right here on NTV where this school, you know, and especially when it comes to the performance, the first student had what, 137, you know, marks. And then, so some of these inequalities, how then do we just create a level playing field so that it doesn't really matter whether, you know, you're studying from, whether in Turkana or in Nairobi, it really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there is some sort of equity, you know, when it comes to judging how competent the students are.
You know, they say that education is an equal opportunity for people to show how unequal they are.
Okay.
Ideally, that is what should be. We should, before we assess children, they should have had equal chance to demonstrate their competence. I was looking at From One selection on Monday, and I was seeing the CS talk about how they have brought children from the slums to national schools so that they can uplift themselves and their families. That's a very sad admission from the highest levels of the ministry, that it is only those few schools that provide
the best,
a viable path to someone uplifting themselves through education. That is the admission. And it's unfortunate and sad. And looking at the budget that was just read, there is still 135 million allocated to national schools upgrading.
What about
what is
the
a
rest?
secondary school in Kenya?
Yes.
It runs from Nairobi school here with 1,000 acres where children eat eggs in school, to some schools somewhere with 3 or 4 mabati structures, and teachers don't even have a staff room to sit in and attend to learners.
Or don't even have any.
You come to school, teach, and then go away because you don't even have a staff room. And these children are supposed to be evaluated uniformly. Are we fair? What is the aspiration of SDG 4? That every child shall get an equitable chance to acquire skills and to go through lifelong learning. We haven't done that, and we are not even pretending to do that. National schools in this country are heavily endowed. They have huge alumni that contribute to them, and many of them have very rich parents. That is the fact. These children from the slum are just 1 in 10 children in national schools. They have very rich parents who are able to contribute to them. And yet we are still allocating them this money from the budget. They teach from this current year's allocation, they are going to be taking in 2.5% of the children who are supposed to transit to secondary school. We are allocating them more money. We are not giving the schools, the sub-county schools, which are teaching more than 80% of our learners, any money to upgrade. And those are schools that are barely schools by any definition.
But you still want to judge them.
And we still hope that these children are having a fair, they have a level playing field. I think that we need to go back there and ask ourselves, what is the minimum that a school should have? So that any child going through that school can pride themselves as having gone to school.
Absolutely.
And to me, that is an issue that is government policy. We need to reallocate our resources fairly. We need to relook at the capitation model. The current capitation model says we'll give money to children. So if you have a school that has 3,000 learners receiving 22,000 shillings per child, and you have another school with 100 children receiving 22,000 shillings per child, what can the school with 100 children do with the 22,000 per child that you are giving them?
Change our priorities. Okay. So before we continue, let's take a, we have a caller on the line. Irene from Baringo. Good morning.
Good morning, June.
Thank you very much for calling us this morning. Do you have a question or a comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I did microbiology, and I graduated 2019. So now that we have a biochemist there, I wanted to inquire how I can align for employment, because I've been applying for jobs. Then I see the qualifications, they need license, but in our institution we didn't have license. Yeah, so how can I fix in the job employment category?
Okay. Thank you very much, Irene, for your question. And Amos or Jane, any of you want to take that?
I guess I'm the biochemist online.
Go ahead.
And how tell us, look at 5 or so job adverts that are looking for that, if you're lucky to find 5. And look at the qualification that they're asking for. If they're asking you for a license, if they're asking you for ABCD, if they're asking you for this, try see if you can actually be able to get that for yourself, because that's what the market is asking for. So do your decisions on a data-driven agenda. So you look at what the market is asking for. If they're asking for license, how do you get that license? If they're asking for the following, how do you get that? So your decision on your next step should be data-driven by the market. But most important, most of the times for people who have done science courses, you thrive at the postgraduate level. I think it was one of the speakers here that talked about a postgraduate. You have to now start thinking about your postgraduate level, because that's when you now do science properly at the mastering level. So start thinking about mastering your postgraduate, but in terms of your license and other things, think about how do you get those licenses, and get a mentor who is already practicing. If you're able to get someone who is already in the field, who is practicing, it will be easier for you. But the opportunities for science in the country are also very limited. So start thinking with a bigger picture, including mastering out of the country.
All right. Irene, are you still on the line, Irene? Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Jane, for that. And of course, I hope that Irene has got anything or two. But then again, the question that I still have for you, Jane, is, again, I'm just thinking about Irene, who says, yes, I have done this, right? But then again, and what you're saying is start thinking about, getting yourself a master's and all those things. But what if they do not have, for example, the money, to probably go through the master's program? What happens then?
The reality is, in Kenya, the science graduates, most of them end up doing other things. Most of them become salespeople. Majority of my classmates are medical representatives, so they will sell for the pharmaceuticals. So the industry that will take you to the lab or the manufacturing setup for the science person is actually very limited. So she has to look at the reality, either change to science or get a scholarship. There are also very many scholarships for developing countries that she would find online. So if she just goes online and looks for scholarship for her master's for microbiology, whatever that is in science, she will find very many. Netherlands, Germany, the US, the UK, she will find very many. And some of those people who actually go for that master's are doing fantastic things in the diaspora.
So look out for all
Not
this.
necessarily coming back to lecture. So she should look online, and she'll find very many scholarships that are funding science students from developing world.
All right. Okay. Look at the options. All right. And earlier on, you also talked about an aspect of passion, and where passion comes in when it comes to aligning yourself as well to a certain career. And there's some people who would argue and say, yeah, but me, it's my passion that feeds me, on a daily. So should we really almost suddenly always rely on passion, or are there some times where you just have to set your passion aside and look at the realities on the ground as far as the job market is concerned?
If your passion can feed you, I'm so happy for you. But most of the times, not all of us are lucky to actually just have passion. Sometimes we learn to love what we do, and that's the reality. I know we'll keep hearing about follow your passion, but assuming your passion is collecting stamps, let me use such an example, it won't feed you in this market. So you have to balance and see if this is my passion, but does it have a space in this market? Has it been overtaken? Because even the things that you have always done have been overtaken by the changes that you're experiencing in the market. So if you find your passion and you can actually thrive in it, I'm so happy for you. If you can't, if alone it can't feed you, see how to balance with the realities in the market. Because sometimes people who talk about passion are also self-employed. Like you go and you create your own cake and bake a bigger one, and you have to take more people and more people. But sometimes for the market, it is bigger than your passion. It is bigger than your passion.
All right. I want to bring in Amos in this sense that do we really sometimes have to fit based on what is available in the market? I mean, can't we create maybe some of these opportunities for ourselves, and especially when it comes to passion?
Thank you. I want just to pick from where Jen left it. And I think she put it so well. I even wouldn't want to dilute it.
Yeah.
Irene and that, get yourself something because you've got to pay bills. If you don't pay bills, you'll have bigger problems. And even your passion will not come to help. And that's what those of us who also try to create our own things face every time. Especially if you look at someone trying to do something that is, not ordinary. For instance, I run a chain of restaurants and I'm so deliberate that I will not sell alcohol. Yet alcohol is currency. So people ask me, why are you doing what you're doing all this if you can't sell to us alcohol? And I remember some of my employees asking me, "Sir, why don't we sell alcohol?" And I remember telling them that for as long as I live or even whether I'm dead, no money from alcohol will pay your salaries. Look, it's difficult. That's what Jen is telling you. So it's not easy for you to go such a route. It requires a lot of grounding for you to do that. But in the meantime, you look at a support base to really facilitate you to pay the bills and such. Because as we did mention in this country, if you are an entrepreneur, you are on your own. I'll give you an example. I spent about 8 months converting a swamp into something a bit habitable. No one was there. Government didn't give me a road. Government didn't give me water. Even up to right now, some of my premises don't even have access to municipal water. But the only call I receive is from KRA. You've not submitted. Everybody wants to collect money from you, but nobody will be willing, including government itself. You wouldn't even access funds for SMEs and such. But you see, you're not going to sit there and kill yourself just because the support system is not available. You really have got to so hard. Yes. So even as we speak about the need for us not really making entrepreneurship to look like punishment, because in this country, entrepreneurship is synonymous with the suffering. You're told that before you make it, you really have to suffer. And this is what I call the poverty mentality, that you really must suffer. That's why we tell our children that struggle today so that you can benefit tomorrow. It's a very, very wrong philosophy. And maybe it underscores why some of the entrepreneurs are very bitter with their lives. So when they look at even young people just making, they are not deliberate mistakes. If you break a few cups in the kitchen while you're preparing a cup of tea, honestly, the difference the 1,000 shillings will make to you and to me, as an employer and you as an employee, who would really suffer most? Why would you really punish a young person just because of sex? But you're so painful because you are paying for your loans, you're doing all this, you are wondering why they cannot use common sense, and a lot of them are so bitter because of the experience that they are going through. So I think it's quite important that when you are taking the passion route, you should be very careful. Otherwise, it's also this same passion that you've seen a lot of them committing suicide because they're like, the whole world never started to understand me, now I'm all over here. It's me battling with the rest of the world. Sometimes you'll just be a little bit too easy on yourself. So Irene and others, don't worry. I know some of these students, like if you ask Jen, probably, I'm just trying to have a hypothesis, probably what she wanted to do was medicine. And so because the medicine was not available, so she saw what is something that is also so close to that medicine. So she must have done something like bio, whatever, kind of.
She wanted to do something else, Jen.
You want to do something that is so close to that, but still can't bring them to what they really wanted. So please, as Martin Luther said, keep running. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. But no matter what, keep moving. Get yourself something to do, Irene. Get some internship, whatever it is. Pump in your energy. You're really going to make it. I like the resilience of our young people. They are capable of making it. It's just us who are in spaces of opportunities who have really let down these young people. But if we give them an opportunity, we invest in aspects that are more fundamental, in aspects where they are able to generate jobs. Let's give every young person an opportunity to wake up and go to work. It's a good thing. It builds self-discipline. If they see how you're able to develop and see how other people are developing, as opposed to telling every young person that they should be out there selling timbers and everything, it's not just right. We're really devaluing education and young people really killing their dignity. Man, all of us who are here, gentlemen, let's create jobs for these young people. That is our duty, not them to create jobs for themselves. Thank you.
All right. Hey, hiya. Okay, it was. We've heard you. All right. So, again, Lydia, so when it comes to then starting these conversations, in terms of getting to understand a person's weaknesses, strengths, and aligning them, as far as their career path is concerned, so that at least they thrive, you know, because we do not want to have, yes, a lot of people in employment, but they're sad, you know, they're not happy, they're not fulfilled by the same. So at what point then should these conversations begin? Do we begin them in primary schools? Because I'm pretty sure you've also heard some parents say, huyu mtoto akiwa mdogo alikuwa na behave ni kama anataka kuwa daktari, you know, so we push them towards that direction.
Actually, it should start as early as possible.
Okay.
I'll give an example. Right now we're on holiday because I'm a teacher, high school teacher. And I've seen parents that are taking children for tuition secretly. And some of them are primary school children.
Okay.
So why go for tuition? Why don't you enroll that child in maybe into a music class? Because those who are taking for tuition, they have money. Or cooking class, something that they have shown interest in.
Okay.
And it's going to help them. And they will learn that in their career. And you find that will be a very great chef. This one will be a very great musician. Because right from the beginning, there is something the parent noted. Or when you put them there, they will select themselves.
Absolutely.
You'll see they don't have interest in this, they have interest in this, and so on.
Yeah.
Come to secondary school, that's where the greatest gap is. I feel for Irene, finishing a degree is when you are realizing there's supposed to be a license. You should have known that in Form 2 when you are picking biology.
Yeah.
That if I do biochemistry,
this is some of the things that I would need.
I will need this and this and this and this. And therefore, we need also to teach, to guide people on career in secondary school. Because at Form 2 is when they are selecting subjects. We guide them on how do I go about it. I want to do law, so which subjects are best for me?
Okay.
Because Form 1 and Form 2, we have put them in every subject so that they can do as many as possible. So that by the time they are in Form 3, they are choosing, and then they do research on career.
All right.
And as a parent, it is also my work as a parent now to let this child, even if you want to become a journalist, just ask for a day to come to NTV and see what happens.
What usually happens.
Yes. And because some of them will say, I want to become a journalist, but they do not know what it entails. They don't even know who a journalist is. Most of them, they just see Winnie reading news and they want to be Winnie.
That's true.
But they don't know what else
what exactly it entails. Yes.
So we need career guidance in schools, as we can guide them, so that they know, I'm doing this course, but what is the work condition? Am I going to work in a cold room?
Okay.
And I'm already asthmatic. But nobody told me when we are doing this, you are going to work in this particular factory, you are going to work here, this is what happens.
But sometimes you'd find that children are very dynamic. What they are interested in today might not be the same thing they'll be interested in tomorrow.
That is expected.
Right.
Of course, career path, it's tentative.
It's very,
It's tentative. If you ask a small child what they want to become when they're in nursery school,
everybody
they want to become
a doctor.
They want to become a teacher,
or a
because
teacher,
the teacher is the most important person in their
what
life.
they see on a daily basis.
But you ask them in secondary whether they want to become a teacher. No, they don't know, because things have changed.
That's true.
The others want to become pilots. They want to become engineers. But as they go on with the education system, they realize, I wanted to become a pilot. It's not mine. So it is tentative. Then a caution to parents, because we are having a lot of issues with the parents that are pushing their children to do what they wanted to do, and yet they did not do it themselves. So I want my son to be a doctor. I want my daughter to be ABCD, and I'm pushing them. And we have a real struggle with them in Form 2.
That's true.
When they're choosing between biology and physics. And the mother says, you must do biology because you must do this. And the child is saying, I do not even understand what it is.
That's true.
I have no interest in it, and so on. And the child is pushed into it. And that's why they are going to the university. They're just finishing a degree. And then after that, they are so frustrated.
That's true.
Because that was not what they wanted to be.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, Professor, then in this sense, because we see a lot of people who go to universities, whatever course that the parent wanted them to do, that is what the course they do. And then after that, they take the certificate home and say, Sawa, so you wanted me to be a doctor, this is the certificate. Let me now go and do something else, right? So at that level where they are fully aware of, this is what I want to do, this is where my interest lies, this is, my strength and weakness and stuff. So then how do you sort of like affirm and just make sure that this person is doing the thing that they are, for example, like passionate about, or their interest lies in the same, so that we do not have, like Lydia says, as many, you know, frustrated graduates as possible?
Winnie, I'll change the trajectory a bit and say that life is real.
That's true.
This country is facing several realities that influence everything that we do. Passion is good. Alignment is perfect. But you may just align yourself and find yourself in careers that do not have jobs. The lady online talking about a degree in microbiology, probably I can advise her in 3 seconds.
Yeah.
She would better go back for masters and do parasitology or entomology. We've had conversation, that's a PhD I did, across Africa. The number of parasitologists and entomologists have shrunk to a very low level. Most postgraduates in BSc, microbiology, biotechnology, are mainly studying either molecular biology or Master of Public Health. So tomorrow, what happened to MBAs a few years ago will be happening to MPH. So we are neglecting parasitology, entomology, that is the insect science, and we've gone and crowded. But back to the question you asked. So if I'm well aligned and I become a microbiologist, and during the break I was giving an example of a situation where when I was at the Cambridge Board of Management, we advertised 37 positions for entry-level scientists. And I mentioned that we received 4,968 applications. And out of those, 4,000 had the minimum requirements. It almost takes a miracle in some of these areas for the employer even to identify who will be given the job. So the reality that we are facing now, if I'm to get it back to the Bible, is the reality that was there during the days of St. Paul's. Bible readers will tell you that St. Paul's was an equivalent of a professor with a PhD in all these many areas. But he also trained himself to the highest level in tent making. So the question we should be asking ourselves here is, okay, I'm a professor of parasitology, but what else can I do? I have a nephew who during the peak of COVID, the father is very tough. He talked to them plus their mother and said, we can't just sit here and wait for COVID to go. Can we start doing something? And a 10-year-old started making mats. I have a few mats in my house that he brought to me and I bought them. The mother, who is a graduate teacher, now qualified and promoted to high levels, had a sewing machine in her house, and for over 15 years, she had just looked at it. So she thought, why don't I go to the market, get a few pieces of clothes, and she started sewing handbags and selling them. I would say in summary that we should not despise any kind of job. But as we train, especially in areas where the market has shrunk, and I'm amazed that even the careers that we've been thinking are very lucrative, like medicine, today as we speak, I'm so sure there are many medical doctors listening and watching because they have no job. And they're in this country, properly qualified, they scored straight A's, went to medical school, did a brilliant internship, but there's no placement. So we want to advise the young people to realize these are not the days when Peter Ngure graduated from KU and got his letter of appointment before receiving his third year results. These are the days where you have to really plan well. For example, I may be a professor in entomology, but if I realize that I'm good in public speaking, I can go to the internet, search on something that I'll be going to speak, not necessarily about insects and parasites, but now about other matters of life, like what you're doing today, career development. I'm not trained in career development, but I can at least speak from experience or look for information. And if you get your 5,000, your 10,000 on the side, in case you lose your job or you have a break, then you have something to fall back to. So let's look at the reality and align ourselves to the reality. But part of that reality has to do with government.
Absolutely.
We have great infrastructure. We have invested multi-billions in SGR, the expressway. Why don't we invest those billions in creating jobs?
All right, for the young people. Okay, all right. So we have Mary on the line before we go on a break, and then I'll come back to you, Professor. I have a question, follow-up question on the same. But Mary, good morning.
Good morning, Tom.
Thank you very much for calling us this morning. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a brother who graduated in 2009 with Bachelor of Science in Meteorology. But seemingly that section, I don't know whether it employs people or not, and how does it do. So I'm asking the professor there, what is the way to go?
Okay.
You know, going to school, graduating, coming loitering in the village, you go to town, doing nothing. At times it becomes a lot of stress. And you know, these are guys with a family, now gaining 40 years, doing nothing.
Yeah.
How do we go about with career and education in terms of making the graduates get something for their own to sustain their family?
All right. Okay. Professor, do you want to take that very quickly before we go on a break?
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mary.
At risk of repeating what I said, it's terrible for an adult just to sit at home and feign being desperado. It's like, I can do nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's a bad space to be. It's a negative attitude that people should wake up and know that they are responsible for their own lives.
Okay.
Career experts tell us that what we practice from our training is, in most cases, less than 5% of what we learned in the universities and the colleges we went to. So whatever training you undertake is supposed to build your skills in terms of thinking, in terms of deploying, in terms of communication. And those generic skills, in my opinion, can provide you opportunity, even if you're not going to entrepreneurship, to be able to function in a different sector. I want to give one example, like the banking sector. I'm aware that bankers don't necessarily employ people who have a BCom. You can't be a statistician, you can't be a sociologist. As long as you show up and pass the interviews, you'll be a teller. Tomorrow you might be the best banker around. I know those early years when electrical engineering field had faced challenges, a good number of electrical engineers went to UK. And today as we speak, the top managers in some of the corporates in UK have a BSc in electrical engineering from the University of Nairobi. They quickly adapted and went for MBAs and immersed themselves and reinvented and re-engineered their careers. So to sit back and say there's nothing that I'm doing and you want your relatives to be empesaring you, I think is not fair.
Okay. All right. You can always do something. Okay. So let's take a break. And of course, when we come back, we'd want to understand. So moving forward, because like we said, the job market keeps changing, you know, almost on a yearly basis. So in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to come, what's going to happen in the job market and how do we adapt, you know, like Professor says. So you do not want to miss that part of the conversation. Stay with us. This is Your World.
As Dr. Funiken Mamakai hosts unscripted true life relationship experiences on reality TV show Kupatana, Nia, Monday to Friday at 8 p.m. and Kupatana every Tuesday and Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Terms and conditions apply.
You've been searching for a solution for your stubborn dark marks. So have we. Nivea Lumina 630. With a breakthrough patented ingredient, Lumina 630 visibly reduces stubborn dark marks accumulated over 10 years in 4 weeks. Nivea Lumina 630, our ultimate solution for even and luminous skin.
Malaria ni ugonjwa hatari sana unaoua watu wengi hapa Kenya. Japo kuko na corona, hatari ya malaria bado iko. Mtoto huyu alikuwa na joto jingi, kutetemeka, kuumwa na viungo na uchovu. Alikimbizwa hospitali ya umma ambako sheria za COVID-19 uzingatiwa na ni salama kwa shughuli ya upimaji. Vipimo vilionyesha kuwa ana malaria na papo hapo daktari akampa dawa za malaria na kumshauri azimalize, na ili kujikinga wawe wakilala ndani ya neti iliyotibiwa. Malaria husambazwa na mbu. Walio hatarini ni watoto wa chini ya miaka 5 na akina mama wajawazito. Kupimwa na kutibiwa ni bure katika hospitali zote za umma. Usisahau adui malaria. Zero malaria huanza na mimi. Chukua jukumu leo. Komesha malaria. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwenu na Wizara ya Afya.
Because of his great love, He gave his only son. Everything was done so you would come.
To get his great love, dial star 811 star 923 hash. Skiza, Non-Nation.
It's a relaxing music. It's music for every mood.
Right through the very heart of it, New York, New York.
Complex harmony and improvisation. Catch Jazz Fusion every Saturday at 4 p.m. only on MTV.
Maisha usipojituma huko nje ufanye ujikaze, yani utatokwa vitu zingine zitakupita. Atachali yako utatokwa.
I mean every word. Aisha.
Yale mawaidha ulinipatia yanafanya kazi. Richard ni wangu.
Josh, sulko umesema hutaki kukaa, unatoka tu sahi.
Huniesha anapatia story moto, hebu relax. Hebu niambie, nampa massage, namkata kucha. Vyakula vitamu. Mbona ucheki na napata Richard wewe?
Richard ni wangu.
Brookhurst International School welcomes parents to enroll their children for April intake. Class 8 graduates can now enroll in Year 9. We are excellent in education, talent, and sports development. Enroll now in our main campus in Kiserian and in our campus in Lavington, Mudhangari Road.
Okay, all right, the conversation still continues even during the break, but we're so glad that you are still with us. This is Your World, and just in case you're tuning in now, today our focus is on education and career development. And of course, because I can see how much is much spent, and of course, before we talk about the internet and what really we can do, to change this narrative and change our attitudes as well, let's take a look at what you had to say. Of course, the question that we asked you today is, why is it that we have so many graduates who are jobless? So Joseph Karanja Flex says, most graduates have unrealistic expectations and they come out here only to find vitu kwa ground ni tofauti and a certificate, diploma or degree to become an employer and not an employee. The biggest question is, nitaanza wapi? And that is where the education system has failed us. They teach you about fish, but they don't teach us how to catch the fish, okay? And then Kosimbe Arab Sang says, we have the qualifications, but on the ground, they are never needed. We learn what is not practiced. Any job, they need 3 years of experience. Where was I to experience while studying? Honestly, Kenya is a struggle land. Back to you, suffering citizen. Oh, wow. Okay. And then Steve Kiragu says, system is the problem, 99.999% theory from the big paged books and 0.1 application. I am not sorry to comment. Okay, Steve, we hear you. And then Exalt Design Emmanuel says, because the system has wasted them by making their minds locked only for employment and not make the mind open for job creation and problem solving. And then this is Ndeto Nash Shoni says, this thing with unpaid internships and 3 years experience is a must. It's so discouraging for the sons and daughters of peasant farmers, okay? And then this is Elmi Abdiaziz says, because the government is recycling the old people, nobody is retiring from the services, okay? And then someone else says, this is Andrew Gitenyi Mokumi, says, you copy assignments, cheat your way through campus and expect once you come out here to get a big job, to get a job immediately. God does not work like that, okay? And then Anthony Carey says the entitlement feeling. Graduates behave like the world owes them jobs and good life. It doesn't work like that out here. All right. And then someone else says, this is Sabasi Moindi, says, because those already in the market want to be in the market like forever. When will the fresh minds get an opportunity? Okay. All right. And then Mude Patrick says, degree is only relevant if you do not have it. Degree is only relevant if you don't have it. Okay. That's a very interesting perspective. So it's a lot. Emmanuel, what do you pick from this, from all this feedback?
I need to say 4 things.
Okay.
One, I think that we are in urgent need of a manpower policy.
Okay.
And this is what it will do when we have it. One, it will guide young people on how to choose their careers.
All right.
2, it will enforce among employers the labor laws that we have. So that employers do not overburden the few staff they're keeping to do so much lockout opportunities that other young people should be taking.
Okay.
I will specifically mention banks. When banks talk of billions and they are forcing their employees to work more than the required hours, they are cutting out employment opportunities and therefore forcing the few people who are in the job to work for others who are outside the job so that they can make the billions. It is unfair, and that can be sorted by a clear manpower policy.
Okay.
As a country, we need to understand that if we are going to spend money to train a medic for 7 years through university, and then they come out here and start managing a small business, it is a misallocation of national resources.
Absolutely.
Because this country still needs doctors. Let us make sure that that policy can sort out that mess.
Right.
And I'm happy that the CBC might provide some solution to that by allowing young people to pursue different pathways so that they don't end up doing what their parents want them and then practicing what they want.
What they wanted later.
I think that is very critical, but I just hope that we can implement CBC well. It provides a solution, we need to implement it well for it to be a solution.
All right.
And number 4, we need to weed out corruption and cartels in this country. Today, if you are a small farmer out there, you cannot bring your produce to this Wakulima market. Because there is someone, a gatekeeper, who will take what you have produced and incurred heavy expenses out there to produce at the price they want to sell at the market price.
Okay.
The farmer who has farmed their cabbage down in Banana will not be able
to get
the market price here in Wakulima. They have to give it to some cartel.
Yeah.
Those cartels are killing entrepreneurship among young people. And I can tell you, after my first degree, I started a business with 0 shillings. And that is a whole subject of discussion.
Okay.
And made some money, and that business was killed by corruption.
Oh, wow.
Someone showed up at my shop and said, if you don't give me this much,
you're going to close this shop.
And so a lot of young people are going through that.
It's true. It's true.
Corruption is a big problem. Not just closing employment opportunities for young people, but it is also closing entrepreneurship opportunities for a lot of these young people. And we need to sort it out.
Absolutely. I hear you. All right. And before we talk to Prof. Lydia and, of course, Amos as well as Jane, we have a caller on the line, Zilta from Kakamega. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you very much for calling us this morning. Do you have a question?
Yes, I have a question.
All right. Kindly speak up, Zilta, so that we can hear you.
All right. I was asking maybe aspect of getting a mentor. Now, how would you get a mentor? How then these mentors also there's a moment where they need motivation, such thing, and you are just these are graduates trying to design a career path for yourself that assists you may grow. How do you get these mentors?
Okay. All right. How do you get a mentor? All right. Thank you very much, Zilta, for your question. And Amos, I want to throw this to you. Where are these people? How do we get them?
I think this is supposed to be client classified information.
All right.
I had a time when I worked with Jen, we are lucky that we get on this call.
All right.
It's a very, very difficult decision to be made, or rather to find the right mentor. Personally, I'm trying to mentor young people, but I think young people in this country also have a serious problem on their readiness. Maybe they, I'm not so sure that they really want to walk that particular journey, and that's why I will get more oriented towards the approach that Jen takes, which is taking a coaching approach as opposed to taking mentorship approach. Because it allows you to play your own game as opposed to wanting to live my life, emulate what I live, but rather really give you appropriate support for you to become what you can get. And I think let's donate time to Jen. She's better placed to advise on
to advise on the same. Yeah, but I like the perspective that you're putting, that instead of just thinking about a mentor, how about a coach, because they help you craft your own path. All right, Jane, then how do we find coaches?
I am right here for a coach. But just to answer, we are living in a beautiful time where we have so much online. So if you are in HR, if you are in zoology, whatever that you have done, trust me, you can find more than 5 people online. If you go to LinkedIn and you just search people in your career, and maybe they're an accountant, search for finance manager, accountant, and don't just ask, do you want to be my mentor? It's a whole technique. Follow them. Get to see what they post. Get to see what they write. Get to experience them online and see whether you want to learn from them. Because there's a place for a mentor and a place for a coach. A mentor has walked your path. You're not living their life, but they have walked your path. They have made mistakes that you don't have to make. There are things they could show you. There are ropes that they could show you. A coach helps you have a clear picture on where to go. But there's also a place for a mentor. So go online, go to LinkedIn. It's a beautiful place. Send those connections and follow those people. Don't just do you want to be my mentor. Follow those connections, see what they are posting, like their work. Let them know that you follow them if you actually like what they are posting. And then now you can now say, I've been following you for 6 months, I've been following you for 3 months now, and I feel there's something I can learn from you. And you can have as many mentors as you can. Because again, mentorship, when it is not structured, you don't learn a thing. So if you have someone that is willing to be your mentor, have them structure. What do you want to learn from them? Because again, a mentor passes skills. And sometimes when you say so and so is my mentor, we just admire them. But there's no skill that they are passing to us. So if you choose me to be a mentor, it has to be very clear what is this that you admire in me, and am I willing to pass this skill to you?
I like that.
Another place that you could also get a mentor is in your space, the space that you interact in. So don't just stay home if you're a fresh graduate. Look out for those networking events. And nowadays you're back now to not just online, but even online. Like last year and the other year, I made very many friends online by just attending webinars, and there are very many webinars. So follow those webinars, see what people are commenting, get to know what people are doing, expand your circle of the people that you know. And from those circles, you'll get as many mentors as possible, because again, a mentor doesn't have to be what you went to school to learn. It could be a director somewhere, it could be someone who is your age, but they are working somewhere and they have something to let you know. So mentorship comes in networking. Get to know as many people as possible in your church. You'll be very surprised. You'll be very surprised if you are deliberate about getting to know more than your age mates. You'll get to know people who can actually impact, in what you do. So both online and offline, you have a lot of people that you can actually relate with, even in up country.
Absolutely. I liked what you said. Don't just look at someone and say, me, I admire them, and then there's nothing that you're getting from them. Okay, make sure that it develops some sort of tiny relationship. So then, Jane, I'll still want to pose this to you. Looking at the way the job market is, and looking at it, in the near future, for example, 5, 10, 15 years, what do you see, the job market, what does it look like?
We are calling it the future of work. And you're saying the future is now. So 10 years could be too long. Like COVID came the other day and changed everything, how we do everything. So of course the future will have a lot of technology in it. It will have a lot of tech in it, and therefore people have to be tech savvy and all that, regardless of what you do. But again, this goes to individual careers and professions. Maybe some will be faced off, some will come. So you have to just be on the lookout and understand what are the changes in your industry. Is your industry at risk, or is your industry growing? And then don't sit there and wait to be finished by the changes that are coming. And when I talk about this, I always like giving the example of a donkey that I keep saying. Well, at one point, the donkey was the most important for transport, for almost everything. But technology came, and now it's not as important, apart from where you have no development at all. So things will keep changing and changing and changing, and new things come into the industry, and be among the first to know about what is coming.
happening.
So keep adapting. So we can't say what will happen in 10 years. I can only say, as an individual in your profession, in your career, keep checking what is happening in the developed world. What is happening in the US will be here very soon. What's happening in the UK is not yet here, but will be here in another 2-3 years.
Okay.
So keep checking and benchmarking the international markets. Yeah.
I like that. All right. So, Professor, then how do we prepare our graduates to, face the market? For example, like Jed says, 10 years is too long. Let's just say 5 years to come. How do we then shift in terms of what they're being taught in schools?
That's a good question. Our graduates should, one, be humble to accept that the ground has shifted. Just like as my colleague has indicated, the job market now, if you're looking for a job, then you must have very advanced ICT skills, regardless of where you're coming from.
True.
If I'm to give an example of when I did my master's many years ago, we would collect data for almost a year, what we call DNA sequencing, for example. Today, DNA sequencing that will take a whole year takes 24 hours. So you can actually write your PhD within a month.
Yes.
And that means that all the people that were involved in the sequencing, you now probably just need one person, where you needed like 5 people. So we must adapt to the new realities of technology. If you're looking for a job, you must be tech savvy. Then if you're looking for a job while at school, please identify the people in the market. In the university that I teach, in the last 6 months, we've done our best to bring industry players to address students and exactly tell them what is happening. Last week we had a PR CEO, PR SK. She came and completely kind of influenced the minds of our students by telling them, okay, the marketing and PR has completely changed.
That's true.
And if they hear that from a practitioner, and after that you prepare a cup of tea for them to interact with the practitioner, there's a way it helps them to align. We are to blame because in most institutions, we just take people to the classroom, give them a few notes and walk out, instead of connecting them. Even the internships that we are talking about and the volunteerism and the placements, it is the responsibility of the university to strike strategic partnerships so that your students will move in seamlessly, and you prepare them well so that when they go there, they can be retained, or they have a chance of at least extending the internship for a year. So as we prepare for the next 5 years, there are many uncertainties. But I would also want to go back to my narrative of reality. The reality is that we'll still be growing potatoes in our farms. And it might be a little bit more advanced with a few hybrids, but farming will still be there. So there are things that will still be there. And that's why I'm advocating for us to think of alternatives rather than sticking to this one thing that you went to school to do. Let's also prepare ourselves for the global market. Sometimes we think so much locally. A few weeks ago, we spent 3 weeks in Malawi, and we were amazed. 12 PhD students and 5 staff. We were amazed by the opportunities that there are in Malawi. Just 2 hours flight from Nairobi, you can actually take a bus and go, and you don't need a visa. All you need is a passport. So if you have your 5,000 bob, you can visit Malawi, and opportunities in Malawi are not anywhere compared to the meager opportunities that are here in this country. So the fact that you have a Kenyan passport or a Kenyan ID does not mean that you must live and die in Kenya. So let's be aggressive enough to explore opportunities and be flexible enough to even learn new skills. For at the end of the day, we'll still have to pay the bills.
Absolutely. They won't pause and say you're not in a good place. Okay, I like that, Professor. All right, Dr. Emmanuel, then, in terms of adapting, because we've had a lot of, adapting today, how do we do that? And especially when it comes to the things that has been deeply ingrained in our minds, that this is how things are done and that's it. And especially I want you to talk to either the students and the parents probably watching us today, to just somewhat try and adapt. What would you say?
I'll pick up from where I like what Prof has said. There is the word humility and reality. It is important for us to teach our young people that if you graduate from university today with a degree in engineering or medicine or architecture, between now and the day you get a specific job that you trained for, you have to leave.
Okay.
In between here, you need to do some things that you didn't train for to make yourself live and to give yourself a chance to even find the opportunity that you are looking for.
Okay.
A lot of our young people don't have that humility to say, I will go to an organization as an intern that is not necessarily doing what I am trained in, to try and gain some experience and to try and earn some income for the time being. I had a friend in Nairobi and he had to relocate because he said he will only do what, and he was one of those lucky people who had gone to Starehe and they had been given ICT skills very early in time when ICT was the in thing. And the guy just refused to do anything else until he gets a job in ICT.
ICT, okay.
You can't keep, you can't live in Nairobi if you can't keep yourself in Nairobi.
That's true.
So in the end, he lost out.
Yeah.
Humility is critical for us to accept that, yes, we have learned so much, but there is still so much to learn.
Okay.
And take an opportunity to learn, take an opportunity to do whatever we need to do for the time being as we look for what we are aiming for. And to also understand that if you go to an organization and you find someone in the field, they may not be as educated as you are, but they are more knowledgeable in that particular organization than
you are.
And for the time you have been deployed to work under them, just respect them.
Try and respect. All right, I like that. Lydia, very quickly in terms of our attitude change, right?
Yeah.
Because like we said earlier on, hey, nikawa tumejiwekea this one thing that you can't get a job until you know someone, right? Very quickly in like, 5 seconds.
It is not true that you have to know somebody. It all depends on what you did and what skills you have, and then even yourself, your personality matters so much. So when you go for an interview with that attitude, you'll fail the interview. But when you go with an attitude that I'm capable and I can do it, you'll do it. But the other problem is also our behavior, our emotions. Most people have what it takes to do the job. They even get the job. Unfortunately, they are even sacked even before they do 1 year.
All right.
Why? Because they never dealt with their emotions.
All right.
From the past. I am a trainer, and when we are training, we talk about what we have gone through.
All right.
And you realize people have gone through so much in life that it becomes a hindrance to what they are going to do. That's why I cannot even think of what I can do. I'm sitting at home because I've not been able to deal with my emotions. And we often tell people, just go for counseling and you'll be
and deal with it. Okay, all right. Hey, Jane and Amos, I would split like a minute, not even a minute, like a few seconds between you two in terms of speaking to that job seeker who is watching you right now at home. What would you say in like 30 seconds each?
Go grab what is available, and when you reach there, take care of the employer's welfare. It is not the employer to take care of your welfare. As an employer, take care of my work. I will take care of your welfare. Don't bring me self-pity, whatever you've gone through. Those are your personal issues.
I
hired you to do work. There are no jobs for you to get something another person who lose it out. When I give you an opportunity, prove yourself. The shortest time possible.
I like that. I like that. Jane?
Let me just say that there's so much that you can do online. We're living in a beautiful time. So if you're a graduate, you already have enough skills for you to do something online. Go to a cyber, make that one hand in tomorrow to do more if you don't have a laptop. If you can own a laptop, the better for you. But if you can't, please just know you have enough skills. Start writing down and seeing what can I do with the skills that I have. Remember number 2, like I think the prof or the doc has said, that you can even do odd jobs because those jobs give you skills. When we are hiring, we don't just hire for your technical skills. We hire you because you're able to express, you're able to relate, you're able to work in a team, and those are things that you won't get in your mother's sitting room. Those are things that you get interacting with people out there, including volunteership and internships. And number 2, remember, the best interviewee gets the job. So you'll have that degree, but if you can't interview, if you can't express yourself, you won't get that job. So sharpen your career tools. Have your CV done properly, have your interview skills properly, your LinkedIn, and all that.
All right. Okay, Jen, I hear you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Such an insightful conversation we had today. But we had to say goodbye. So thank you for coming by today. And of course, we really, really appreciate that. But also thank you for watching. I believe that you've learned a lot from today's show. But of course, also special thank you to everyone who put together and made sure that the show is a success. My name is Winnie Lubembe. God bless. And we'll see you soon, of course, on another show right here on Your World. But for now, enjoy the rest of your viewing. Goodbye.
Thank you.